Thank you, Carl, and the whole team from Yellica. Can I thank you not only for the welcome to country, but for your whole family, particularly your late mother, Carl. Her contribution to the cause of reconciliation in our nation has been profound. It's a cause that is ongoing. To my parliamentary colleagues, particularly our truly marvellous Deputy Leader, Susan Close. I can't thank you enough for all your hard work, Susan. To all of you, members of the great Labor movement, South Australians one and all, we launch our campaign with our feet on Aboriginal land. And I say very proudly, only South Australian Labor will negotiate a treaty with the First South Australians and deliver an Aboriginal voice for Parliament to our state. We launch our campaign with our eyes on the far horizon, and I say firmly, only South Australian Labor offers people what they crave. More than policies for the next 4 years, we offer a plan for the next generation. We launch our campaign with our heads and our hearts in a once-in-a-100-year health and economic crisis, with a plan to invest in health, a plan to grow our middle class. And yes, we launch our campaign as the underdogs, with our faces set against a first-term government with a pandemic premier. But I know we can win. Why? Because I launched my campaign today with my eyes on all of you. Here I am, surrounded by a united team, a hungry operation, motivated by a common cause. People who know it's never about our own ambitions and designs. People who live the life of everyday South Australians. People who put other people first. And because my opponent could never say the same, our state election campaign is now underway. In the next 4 weeks, I don't want to win a blame game. I don't even want to win a contest between the long list of Liberal failure and our long list of good ideas. Because this campaign is not just a question of who controls the Parliament over the next 4 years. This election is a decision about who has the plan for our next generation. My fellow South Australians, when you vote, I need you to appreciate the scale of the challenge and the significance of the moment that we are living in. Our state will never have another chance to recover from a global pandemic. This election is an opportunity which will never come around again in our lifetime. We get one shot at our comeback from this once-in-a-century crisis. Our small business owners cannot wait 4 more years for real help. Our young home buyers cannot wait 4 more years for real hope. Our school leavers, our underemployed, our working poor cannot wait 4 more years for jobs and wages to grow. And you heard today from Mel and Raj. Two outstanding South Australians. And you only have to listen to them to know our hospital system and our health workers, and most importantly our patients, cannot wait 4 more years. Our state needs a credible plan to fix the ramping crisis now. When I think about the last couple of years, it's hard not to reflect on the extraordinary sacrifice made by so many of our fellow South Australians in the name of everybody else's safety. I've spoken to the airline workers who lost their jobs overnight. I remember chatting to one lady, an international air hostess who landed her dream job in December 2019, only to lose it months later, and then found herself working at the supermarket. And I've spoken to the supermarket workers who have, during the midst of the crisis, were looking up the aisle as far as they could see, with customers queued down to the back of the store, queuing up just to get those essential goods. Speaking to those checkout operators who, unvaccinated, not knowing the risk to them and themselves, served one customer after the other to keep food on the table for South Australians. I've spoken to the hospitality workers, the hospitality small business owners, devastated by the impact of the virus. But all of these people gave up their incomes, their livelihoods, their capital, everything they know. They gave it all up willingly. Willingly. Because they understood the significance of the challenge that confronted them. They understood it was the right thing to do, not for themselves, but for everybody else. The best example of this was probably one of the most extraordinary interactions I've had over the last couple of years. It was actually quite recent. We got COVID, and I got it first, which means I got out first. I wasn't particularly popular in that little window of time at home. But a lady, or an owner of a small cafe near Annabelle and I in the inner western suburbs, she put a post up on Facebook from her business Facebook page explaining that they were now on the brink. And it was literally a calling out for customers to come and frequent their business to keep them going. And Belle saw the post on Facebook, and it was the night before her birthday. And she said, tomorrow morning for my birthday, zip down to the cafe and get some coffee and croissants and some treats for the kids. So that's what we did. I went down there. I ended up chatting to the lady who owns the business. And she explained to me that she was now at the point where the house was literally on the line. And I wanted to be honest with her. And I said to her, listen, I'm not the politician who's calling for the restrictions to end. I've been supporting the government in that endeavour because I think people are trying to make the best judgments under difficult circumstances. She stopped me and she said, no. I understand. She said, that's what I want you to do. She said, I've got an 8-year-old son at home undergoing chemo for his leukemia. And she said, I have to come to work to keep a roof over our head, but I go home every night worrying that this is the day I bring the virus home. These are real people, good people, people who want to know their sacrifice has been worth it, people who want their government to deliver them a better future than the past they knew before. If we just let our state go back 2 years, when we had the worst unemployment rate in the nation, which we have today, the worst underemployment rate in the Federation, which we have today, the worst participation rate on the mainland, which we have today, that would be the greatest missed opportunity of our time. When we have tens of thousands of people unemployed and even more who are not even looking for work, while at the same time, local businesses are crying out for people with skills, then we have a serious structural failure in our labour market. That's why I have a comprehensive policy on education, training and skills. It is a great tragedy that currently in our nation we are experiencing a decline in average school-aged performance, and worse still, our state is behind the rest of the nation. If we are serious about trying to address that structural failure in the labour market, we all know that the only long-term answer to solve that problem, which has been with us for a sustained period, is education, training and skills. It can't just be stimulus focused on the next 4-year election cycle. It has to be a long-term solution. And when it comes to education, all the research tells us that nothing is more important than early childhood education. That's why I have a plan to deliver universal, free access for every last 3-year-old in this state to preschool. But it can't just be in preschool. We're going to do everything we can to ensure that when those young children reach the school gate, that they get the best quality education they deserve. And of course, the people who are at the front line in that endeavour, the people that don't just have a job but are committed to their vocation, are our teachers. And that is why we have a comprehensive plan to improve teaching quality. We are going to ensure that the government provides scholarships so that we employ specialist teachers to teach specialist subjects. We're going to make sure that we've got a more diverse pool of teachers. We are going to do everything we can to increase the rate of permanency by at least 10% for our teaching workforce. We're going to give principals the autonomy they need to keep the teachers they want, particularly in the country, where the country allowance cuts off after 5 years or no more. We're going to introduce a mid-year intake for reception. But then as time progresses and their journey goes into high school, senior school, we know that kids deserve a choice. Some of the most successful mates that I have, some of the happiest mates I have, never went to university. We've got to give kids a choice, which means when they get to year 10, 11 or 12, they can start to go down another path, which is why we're going to build 5 brand new technical colleges to give the kids the skills they need. And then there's our universities. Probably some of the most powerful social and economic institutions in our state. Now, for decades, we've been kicking the can down the road about an honest debate about whether or not amalgamation is good for tertiary education in this state. Well, that game ends if we're in charge. If we end up forming government in March this year, then we are going to actively examine and pursue university amalgamation to set our state up for the future. This is a comprehensive plan for education for the rest of our lives. This is the plan that will give our people the skills they need. And here is a plan that will grow the jobs for those skilled people. The history of our federation has been defined by who has had the resources the rest of the world wants and needs at that time. The Victorians had the gold in the 1800s. New South Wales and Queensland, the 20th century was defined by their coal. Thus far in the 21st century, it has been defined by the West having iron ore and natural gas. But in the second half of this century, there is only one type of fuel the rest of the world wants and needs: clean energy. And that is where we are world beaters. But the fuel of the future to transport our abundant renewables overseas is going to be hydrogen. That's why we have a hydrogen jobs plan, a plan that will see South Australia build the world's biggest hydrogen electrolyser, use that electricity to provide cheap, clean energy to industry in our state, growing jobs. But the real potential lies in our ability to export hydrogen globally, giving the rest of the world the clean energy that we know they need. This is the economic future I see for our state. More jobs, higher wages, new industries, new opportunities. That's a massive down payment on our economic future. But there is another very immediate need. What's true for everyone in our state is true for our state as a whole. If you don't have your health, nothing else matters. Because all of our ambitions for the economy, education, and the environment depend on getting health right and getting health right now. An election only focused on the health blame game is going to get us nowhere. So today, I start announcing new plans for the most urgent need of all. Today, I start announcing our plan to fix the ramping crisis. I see it like this. The simple fact is, every time a government makes cuts to health, it just doesn't work. Plain and simple. We've got a growing population and an ageing population. We don't need less resources in health, we need more. We need more beds, more nurses, more doctors, more ambos. That's why this morning I've already announced a Labor government I lead will recruit 100 additional doctors into our public health system. Every one of these doctors will be on the books within 4 years, with the first recruits starting this year. The recruitment of these 100 new doctors is all about improving the timeliness of care, reducing bed block and relieving ramping. But that is just the beginning. Because today, I announce that a Labor government I lead will deliver a total of 300 new public hospital beds. This is a massive increase in public hospital capacity. Again, all aimed at fixing the ramping crisis. But we can't fix the ramping crisis until we are honest about the causes of ramping. The real reason our hospital emergency departments can't treat people when they need it isn't just because there are too many people arriving in ambulances. It's also because there are too many people stuck in emergency departments who should not be there. And that's because there is nowhere else in the hospital for them to go. We do need more hospital beds, many more hospital beds. But they also need to be the right kind of hospital beds. A very big example is this. What the experts tell us and what the evidence shows is that our emergency departments are overflowing because they are looking after mental health patients for days at a time, which is not what emergency departments are there to do. The shortage of mental health beds is already a major driver of bed block in our hospitals, and in turn, a major driver of the ramping crisis. Now, that was already true before the lockdowns, the border closures, the family separations, and the job losses. So now, after 2 years of the pandemic, there is an enormous mental health challenge emerging around us. I've heard it put like this: if COVID was the earthquake, mental health will be the tsunami. And the alarm is sounding now. So I can announce today that as part of our massive expansion of bed numbers, we will open 98 new mental health beds in South Australia. Chris and Gemma have been working incredibly hard to get us to this point. These additional 98 beds will include 3 new 24 mental health wards, 1 at Modbury, 1 at the QEH and 1 at Noongar, with funding to construct and operate them, while also doubling the number of mental health beds at the Mount Gambier Hospital. This increase represents the most significant investment in mental health beds in more than a decade. And I'll have more to say about the allocation of the remaining beds in the coming days and weeks. I say to the people of our state today, we are the only party with a credible plan to fix the ramping crisis. And we are the only party who can afford to pay for it. Because I will not proceed with spending $662 million of your money building a basketball stadium that no one wants and nobody thinks we need. My friends, you're all here today. Campaigners, unionists, volunteers, true believers. Because first and foremost, we are all Democrats. We know elections matter. I'm only here today because my grandparents knew elections matter. 70 years ago, Grandma and Grandpa fled Europe as communism advanced west. It's a journey I can hardly imagine, much less adequately describe. My grandmother Etta got out of Hungary just in time and got to Australia only to meet another refugee in Bathurst of all places, a Lithuanian bloke called Malinauskas, my grandfather. How they got here is beyond words in many ways. But I find it easy to tell you why. My grandparents left Eastern Europe because they wanted to choose their own future. They wanted the right to vote, the right to a voice, the right to decide. I say to every South Australian today, at this election, the one thing that matters most is this: you choose your future. It's not my turn to define our state's future, it's yours. And at this election, more than any other in a generation, the choice is big. The future of our state is on the ballot on Saturday, 19 March. To everyone in this room, I'm going to ask a lot of you in the next 4 weeks, and I need you to dig deep. Because you are seasoned campaigners, you know how hard this election will really be. You know that we are the underdog, but you also know that we wouldn't have it any other way. But because you are active in our community, citizens in our suburbs and our regions, having conversations about the future every day, I think you also know that we are right in this contest as we launch our campaign here today. I'm telling you right now, I believe if you win this campaign, we will win this election. And I know how hard you will work to win this campaign. So I do ask you this: work like you never have before. But I ask you something else as well. When you do the work, when you get up early, when you get on the doors, when you get on the phones, don't do it for me. Don't do it for your local candidate or your local member. Don't even do it for the party and the movement that we love. From the bottom of my heart, I ask you this. Campaign for the people who don't have a powerful lobby, who don't straw the halls of Parliament, who don't even have a vote. Campaign for the next generation of South Australians, for the generation whose future will be determined by the choice our state makes on election day. Do it for them. And when you do, in every conversation, in every call, on every door, I need you to say this. This election is a decision about who has the plan for our next generation, a plan for our economy, a plan for education, a plan for the environment, a plan to fix the ramping crisis, a plan that realises the opportunity before us, this most remarkable of moments. That's why South Australia needs a Labor government with a united team, a fresh policy, a bold vision. So we can look back on this period without regret. Like the Reconstruction generation after World War II, that generation of South Australians saw the moment, seized the moment. This is our chance to set up our state for a better future, a better life, a better society. That's what we can achieve if we win this election campaign and win this election. So let's get out there and let's get this done.